CSS3, right? CSS3 is a new development in web design and styling. It obviously appends CSS1 and CSS2. It has quite some interesting features and exciting in the design aspect if you can understand how to use them properly. The unfortunate thing is Internet Explorer still does not recognize CSS3 totally, and so you may have some issues. And obviously previous versions of Internet Explorer literally do not show them at all. So you have to be very cautious, and when you're developing CSS3 based web pages, you also have to include styling that allows to show what would happen if it can't recognize the CSS3. I'm basically talking about this option here, rounded corners, today, because I'm making a website, and I'll show you the website. This is the website, and I wanted obviously to have rounded corners on the boxes, on all the boxes you see, okay, and even rounded corners on the top section. Now, to do this in CSS2, which is the left side, you have to go through a very complicated process to get the corners to be rounded. Now this is CSS3, and it's very simple the way you implement it. As I said before, you have to understand if it doesn't implement it, you've got to make it so it has a straight corner instead of a rounded corner. This gives nice styling options if you want to smooth your design off instead of having rigid squares everywhere. But as I said, it doesn't get recognized all the time, and so sometimes you may have to do it via rounded corners using images, which is what this is. These are GIF images. Okay, these are complicated simply because each corner has to be cut out separately, okay, like so, and placed separately. And in this case, which is even worse, you see this is a nice gradient. This is a gradient, but it has to have a gradient on the sides, on the middle section, and the corners have to be cut out. And because it's a gradient, the corners here have to be cut out exactly to fit the gradient going down. So if I extend this box, it gets more problematic. Okay, and that's the issues with doing CSS3 and CSS2. I'm just going to show you quickly how the coding for these two things work, because in visual aspects they look almost exactly the same, and in all intents and purpose they are exactly the same. You may notice, especially if I zoom in, that this has got quite a nice smooth corner. Yeah, this one's got a jagged anti-alias, what we call it, anti-alias corner. Okay, this is because this is a GIF, and I've had to make it transparent on the edge. And unfortunately, GIF transparencies don't allow you to have a smooth edge, whereas this is actually coded in, and so it actually gives the anti-alias smoothed effect. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to zoom out and show you the two ways those are coded. Open up this. Right, I just made a container to fit it all in. This is example one. This is the one box, okay, on the top left, this one. You see, oops, you'll see that it takes several divs to actually build it up. For instance, this is the div that holds the top left corner, this is the div that holds the bottom left corner, this is the div that does the central left side, okay, etc, etc. So it's taking quite, this is probably not the easiest way of doing it, or this maybe the best way, but the thing is, it's the way that I figure it out to make what I wanted work. Okay, but you also notice that it's taking a lot of coding up because it's got several hundred divs doing a simple function, which is to basically make a box with rounded corners. Now, if you look at the other one here, it says small box 2. There's one div. Yeah, it's got, you know, this is the box with rounded corners that is built using CS3. That's this box, exactly the same. Okay, one div. Okay, that's the coding. This is exactly the same function here with the gradients. It's just copies of the ones above, but I've just renamed them for the styling option. Now if we look at the styling, yeah, you'll see, let's go up. What I've done here, this is box 1, which is the one on the left. You'll notice I've had to go through several options to create widths and heights and give it background images, put the positions of the GIFs in the right place, etc., etc., and all the coding to align the divs next to each other, etc., etc. It's lots of complicated coding, basically, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 definitions to set that box up. Okay. Again, if I show you this one, on the left, on the right, it's simply one definition call. Okay, which is basically showing all the things you need to do, and the magic part of it is this part, which is creating the actual radius, is just that. Yeah, if I take that away, it becomes a square box. Okay, all it's doing is it's making it so it renders it as a corner. Okay, oops, better just put it back. Okay, now as I said, it gets a little bit more complicated if you do a gradient, whereas if I go to the bottom again, you see it's got a background image which is creating the actual gradient, and I've also defined the background colour to be the lowest colour of the actual gradient. So if we do, let me just show you this, so if we do actually change the height of it, there's no deformation of the actual line, there's no line appearing here to show that it's actually an image, so it makes it work quite well. Okay, so I can make it whatever size I want. Okay, that's the best way to do a gradient, by the way. Okay, but the other one, again, I've had to define the background images, I've had to make sure that they're all sitting in the right place, etc. So there's quite a lot of complicated coding in CSS, and I've had to do this hack to allow it to all sit next to each other. There's quite a lot of coding just to make it basically look the same as a piece of CSS3, and obviously the reason you're using CSS3 is because it's supposed to be an advancement and an improvement. So I just wanted to show you that. Go back to the end result. Two different ways of doing rounded corners, one obviously better than the other. Okay.